Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here. You were kind enough to give my bio. It's actually an old bio. I no longer speak at Yeshiva University. I do speak about 150 campuses around the country each year, and that's my day job. My day job is I travel the country and I speak from Harvard to Yale to Princeton to UPenn, GW, Buffalo, Rochester, you name it, from the East Coast to the West Coast. And I feel like I have a pretty good grip on where the Jewish people are heading, and sometimes it's a little bit frightening, to be honest. But history is made of his story. Individual people who want to stand up and be counted and say that the buck stops with me. So I hope I'm in a room full of history people, and maybe this talk that I'm going to give you today will inspire you. The truth of the matter is, I've never given this talk before, and it's something I had on my mind. It's something I do with my children, and in the words of the Mesilas Yesharim, it may be such a simple concept that everyone knows it, but it's the fact that they know it that allows it to be forgotten. And that could be a good thing also, just to have somebody, short, fat rabbi, get up and just talk about something very simple and honest. When I speak about religion on campus, one of the points I like to mention again and again is the concept of the proof is in the pudding. And the proof is in the pudding, nowadays people don't know what that means. It's an old saying, so you have to be from the 1960s or before to get that. But what it means essentially, for you young guys, I'm a grandfather already, by the way, in case you're wondering. I have 6 grandchildren, so I guess I'm in the old-timers category at this point. What it means is if someone comes to you and they say, I make the best pudding, this is delicious, you'll enjoy it, it's delicious. Finally, what does the guy say? Make the pudding, let's taste it. The proof will be in the pudding. If it tastes good, it's good. If it's not, don't talk it up. If it's not good, it's not good. You can't talk it up. And I use that as far as Judaism goes vis-a-vis other religions when I have to do comparative religion, because when you look at other religions, you could say religion of peace, but if 98% of the wars are caused by your religion, the proof is in the pudding. It's just that simple. It's not peaceful if it causes war. You can say your religion. I remember I was once listening to, I used to have this hobby of listening to evangelical radio. I only did it because at that point I was doing a lot of debates on campus, and I like to understand where they were coming from. I'm not recommending this; it's not a rabbinical recommendation. But I remember once there was this preacher, and he's speaking, and then in a commercial break he was speaking to the evangelical community, and he says, You know what the divorce rate is in the United States? He says it's about 50%. And he says, do you know what it is in the evangelical community? It's also about 50%. And therefore, everyone come to my retreat, my seminar, and we're going to teach you how to keep your marriage together. And at that moment, when he said that, I wanted to pick up a phone if they had offered a phone line and say, hello, proof is in the pudding. If you have a way of life that's supposed to cater to civility, that is supposed to take care of relationships, that's supposed to lead towards lasting love, then why is the divorce rate in the evangelical community the exact same as it is in the secular community? That's the concept of the proof is in the pudding. And it's very powerful, and I use it because Judaism usually comes up smelling like roses when you make these comparisons. Unfortunately, it doesn't always. And there is one very simple concept that I want to speak about tonight that I'm hoping that maybe will create a quiet revolution with this concept. And I'm going to start off this concept by telling you a story that happened to me this week. And I'm not proud of myself with this story. It's not a good story. I was at a convention in Maryland, this week. I got back on Thursday evening. And in the convention, there was a workshop in how to run Israel trips, like a birthright trip and these kind of ACE trips or Sameach trips or whatever organization, BBYO, USY, all these organizations, they're on trips. How do you make a high-impact trip? And we took all of the leaders from the different campuses and we gave them a full-day seminar, nuts to bolts, nuts to soup, right? Everything, how you run a trip. And there was one part of the exercise that we were speaking about icebreakers. How do you create a good icebreaker? And, you can have a funny icebreaker. People are uncomfortable. They're coming on a trip. It's the first day of the trip. And what's a good icebreaker to get people to be comfortable about them with each other and to break the ice? And we all stood around in a circle, and somebody had a good idea. And I'm not going to get into the idea because they may watch this, and I don't want to get too personal. But someone came up with an idea, and it was a funny idea, but he was very earnest about this idea, like, this is how to do the icebreaker. And he says, and if you do it right, they're going to go like that, like the way they do it, the way the students do with their arms like that. And there were some people, some of the leaders, trip leaders, who began mocking this person, making fun of him. And for the next 15 minutes, I mean, like that? And I really thought I was back in 4th grade. It was just really uncomfortable. And they kept doing it again and again. Now, it may surprise you that somebody could be a leader on a campus and yet still be a bully. But that's a bully thing to do. You just mock somebody again and again. You mock somebody, and we have an Avera that targets such behavior. It's called oinoaz devarim, giving somebody pain with your words or your actions. And as this was going on, I wanted to go over and say, cease and desist. This is not cool. This is not okay. And for whatever reason, I didn't. I should have, and I didn't. And later on in the program, when I was called up to speak, and I gave certain advice, this same bully began mocking that. Now, I didn't mind it. Obviously at that point, people saw the trend of this person is to mock. That's, I guess he caters to the fraternity, sorority crowd, and that's how they, right? That's his reality. But what bothered me wasn't his mocking then. What bothered me was that, why didn't I speak up before? Because if I had spoken up before, maybe he would have been aware and maybe he would have stopped. Why did it have to wait until it happened to me and then to the next person until we can get this person to realize? And it bothered me that I wasn't man enough to do the right thing. Because the right thing at that point would have been to speak up. It's a very famous medrash where there were 3 people. Paro said, "What do you do? What do we do to the Jewish people? They're like cockroaches. They're like vermin. They're all over the land. How do we stop their growth?" And Yisro says, "Look, they're good for the land. We owe it." Yosef took care of Paro and Mitzrayim. He took care of the famine. Yisro spoke up well on our behalf. Bilam said, "Well, throw him in the Nile." And Eov said nothing. Eov was quiet. And we know that Job, was punished for being quiet with tremendous afflictions on his body, to his family, to his property. And the Musar masters, the Baalei Musar, asked, why did he deserve such desperate punishment? He didn't say anything. Paro said, what do we do to the Jews? And Eov kept quiet. So I heard from my Rosh Hashiva, Reb Mordechai Gifter. He used to say, wenn es tut weh, schreit man. When it hurts, you scream. When it hurts, you call out. And if you could see hurt, if you could see somebody is being ba'avled, somebody is in pain, and you just are quiet, you don't say anything, that's a problem. That's an issue. And that's why his punishment was the kind of punishment that made him scream. To tell him, when it hurts, you scream, right? So if it hurts the Jewish people, you scream also. We just read Parshas Pinchas. And Parshas Pinchas, Pinchas did not keep quiet. He stood up for what was right, and he saved the Jewish people. We say in Kabbalah Shabbos a formula to know whether you love God. Are you an Ohev Hashem? Do you love Hashem? Do you love Hashem? It's very easy to know. It's a pasuk. The pasuk says, Ohavei Hashem sinura. We say it in Kabbalah Shabbos. The formula is, Ohavei Hashem. If you're somebody who loves Hashem, sinura, you hate evil. You hate when you see evil. You hate when you see somebody being hurt. It bothers you so much that you hate it. There's a visceral hatred. How could you do this? Says David HaMelech, if you could see Ra, if you could see evil, and just keep quiet, that's the clearest proof you're not an Ohev Hashem. If you could see somebody being hurt, if you can see dishonesty, if you could see corruptness and keep quiet, that's a proof that you don't love Hashem. Because a lover of Hashem has a reaction. It's not okay to be parav in this world. Now, we're going to speak later on what kind of reaction should that be. But at least we know that it's not a neutral reaction. Oyave Hashem, a lover of Hashem, sinura, hates evil. So now we get to the title of this talk. If I had to give this talk a title, it would be, Do the Right Thing. It's a very, very simple idea. It's a very old-fashioned 1950s idea. Do the right thing. Let me explain to you why this needs a refresh. We live in an era of art scroll books and stories of heroism, greatness, exciting tzaddikim doing majestic things, and it's those big acts that we put on a pedestal. And that's good, and they deserve to be put on that pedestal. But it comes at a price. The price is that the very simple act of trying to always do what is right has gotten lost. There's no nobility in it. There's no nobility in waking up in the morning, living your day, and every moment say, I have two choices. I could do the right thing and I could do the wrong thing. And I'm going to choose the right thing. Around the supper table about 2 weeks ago, when a few of our children had become a little bit moody and we felt they needed a little correction, a little calibration. So we spoke about the concept of the right thing in the Torah's view. And we went around the room again and again. Give me an example of the right thing to do. And I will give you examples soon. But to view it as a value, to do the right thing, I don't remember growing up hearing those words. There is a right thing. There's a song called The Right Way to Live. You know that song? Right way to live. There's a right way to live. There's a good way to live. And it doesn't have to be a black and white mitzvah. You know why? Because derech eretz kadma l'Torah. It actually comes before you ever pick up your hand to put on tefillin. It comes before everything. Doing the right thing comes first. And unfortunately, I feel that there are times that even within our own frum community, while we're known for chesed, we are known for tzedakah, simply being known to do the right thing as a matter of course sometimes is lost. I don't like the stereotype of trying to Jew someone down. Anti-Semites say that, but what it basically means is get a bargain. You see, are you hurting the other person? Are you giving them a fair price? Or are you trying to underhandedly rip them off? There is a right way to go about bargaining. There is a right way. It does exist. You don't have to walk away feeling like the victor and King Kong beating your chest. You could both leave happy in some way. And why can't we be known as the community that consistently and constantly does the right thing from beginning to end? We are the people who do the right thing. And I think we always gauge it by, is it a mitzvah or isn't it a mitzvah? So that's why I just want to code it in terms of the right thing or the wrong thing. Now there's when David HaMelech brought Shlomo HaMelech to his bedside, Shlomo HaMelech, young child, he wanted to tell him, you know, you're going to be the next king. Did he say, you should be a tzaddik, be a tzaddik, be a Talmud Chacham? David HaMelech was a big Talmud Chacham. Halacha k'maisa b'chol makom. David HaMelech, the halachas always like him. He was a big Talmud Chacham. He said, you're going to be a king. Did he say, be a Talmud Chacham? You know what he said? He said, v'chazakta v'hayisa li'ish. Strengthen yourself and be an ish. What does ish mean? Well, say it in Yiddish. How do you say ish in Yiddish? Be a mensch. Be a mensch. You want to be a leader, you need to be a mensch. You want to be the Or LaGoyim, you want to be the light unto the nations. We have to represent menschlichkeit in our community and outside of our community, to our family, whether people see us, whether no one sees us. You take a piece of garbage and you miss the garbage can. The right thing to do is to walk over and put it back in. Don't wait for someone else or the cleaning crew to pick it up. There is a right thing to do. There exists a way of living that incorporates the right thing. You know, half of Pirkei Avos is just about this one idea, and we hit it every which way to Sunday. The second parak, the first Mishnah, says it as clear as you'll ever hear it. This is what Rebbe says. What is the derech? Ezu derech yishar shi'avar lo adam? What is the right way that a person should act? Kol she'tiferes lo seh v'tiferes lo mina adam. Something that gives Hashem honor, glory. You represent God. And something that's tiferes lo mina adam. Mankind could look at you and say, wow, he or she represents the epitome of a human being. That's a person. That's a mensch. I look up to such a person. And there's another very, very critical point to this. And the point is, the Rambam says that every mitzvah you can get a kapara for. You can get a kapara for eating treif. You can get a kapara even for adultery. There are kaparas for practically everything. Some of them are not so easy, but they exist except for one. There's only one mitzvah that you need death to be mechaper. Until a person's dead, there's no kapara. And that's very bad. Because if you don't get a kapara, that means the malach kategor remains with you your whole life. The malach kategor is the accusing angel that gets to sit there and not let you have atzlacha in life. Because the malach says, how could you let him have atzlacha? Didn't he do this? And you know what that avera is? It's called chilul Hashem. The only avera that Misa is mechaperes, and not Yom Kippur, and not Yisurim, but you need Misa is chilul Hashem. So when we, as a Jewish people, don't represent the epitome of menschlichkeit, what we're doing is we're causing the great chilul Hashem. They say, is this the people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has chosen to be that light unto the nations? This people, are you kidding? Look at them. Look at them. My license plate, because of Shabbat.com, someone bought me a present. It's a blessing and a responsibility. They bought me Shabbat. They bought me Shabbat. So could you believe it wasn't taken? They just went. They said a Shabbat, New York available. And it was Shabbat. That's great until I realized that no more speeding, no more merging, no more, nothing. Because everyone sees it. It's like writing Jew on your car. Like everything you do, they see. But you know what? I like that. Because if I didn't have that, maybe I could delude myself into thinking that I can drive a certain way. But that's not the right thing to do. If there's a long line going off of an exit, it's not the right thing to go into the other lane and then get somebody to merge so that everyone had to wait 5 minutes, but you get to go in right before the exit. It's not the right thing. And if we live the right way, we don't do stuff like that. And we have to speak about that because ultimately the Geula will come when the Jewish people represent, and we represent when we do the right thing. I wrote down a few examples. I am sure we can go around the room till the morning and past. Here's a simple one. How many of us get invitations and don't even respond? You know, if someone sends you an invitation to a wedding or a bar mitzvah, that means they took a moment, they thought about it, they got a postage stamp, maybe two. They put your name, they printed your name. They liked you enough to agree to buy $60 worth of food for you. And you don't even throw it back with a, I would love to, mazel tov, 4 words. It's the right thing to do. Yes, oh no, I got 4 invitations. That means it's going to take me 4 minutes or 8 minutes to write mazel tov. How could we just let it go? Let them come out in the garbage. Who asked for the invitation? I never asked for an invitation, so I'll throw it away. Respond. It's the right thing to do. That's who we are. Ever go to a shul kiddush? There's a right way to act at a shul kiddush. I was just at a shul. There were a lot of people doing the wrong thing. I was a little bit embarrassed. Herring is not worth that much. Even the good Matyas herring, it's just not that chashuv. The pushing and the shoving, that's not who we are. That's not our fabric. We could go out and buy our own piece of cheesecake or our own little 7-layer for $1. A buck or $2. We need to push and shove. Cholent, we're going to get cholent at home. We're going to get cholent in a few minutes. Why do we need double cholent? And then to push, and then the one guy who comes and he fishes out all the meat. That's the wrong thing to do. It's wrong. Someone has to speak up and say, there is a right way to live. And that's a Jewish value. It's before Torah learning. It's at our core, it's at our essence. And we got to teach our kids, there's a right and there's a wrong. Do the right thing. Take a little bit of meat and leave the rest for the next person. And if the next guy goes and he grabs all the rest of the meat, then he did the wrong thing. At least you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I do the right thing. You're in shul. You take out a sefer. Put it back. Put it back. People should have to look for that Masechta and to look all around because Masechta's Tainus is somewhere over there because it wasn't put back. Why should someone else do it? They're being paid. So big deal. They're being paid bupkas, I'm sure. And they also have to get home. And why? They don't work for you. Doing the right thing means being punctual. It's not cute to be on Jewish time. Jewish time is a nice way of saying, I'm a little bit inconsiderate of your time. I'm sorry if this sounds like preachy. I'm sorry. I've never spoken about this before. I'm piling on. I'm right over here in West Hempstead, and I'm going to pile it on because I know people are going to listen. And maybe there'll be one person who chronically comes a half an hour late and keeps everyone waiting. And it's the wrong thing to do. If you make up a certain time, you come on that time. And if you're going to be late, you let the person know. And you don't keep them hanging. It's the right thing to do. It's not, I'm a yucky. Oh, it's forgivable. It's Jewish time. It's not forgivable. People's times are valuable. And I'm sure you resent when you're there on time and the other guy doesn't say anything. And he rolls in 20, 25 minutes late without an apology, without an excuse, with nothing. As if he came on time. It's not the right thing to do. It's not Jewish. It's not Jewish at all. There's no Jewish time. Jewish time is on time. I'm a mixed bag. My grandfather was a Yeki. My grandmother was a Chassid. So I have this inner struggle inside. The right thing to do is to be honest. To be honest. And being honest refers to taxes. Being honest refers to fulfilling your civic duty. There's an honesty that we should be known for. We should be known for that stuff. Why should people speak about the Mormons? And I know Mormons. I used to be right next to the Mormons at UCLA. Very fine, upstanding people. They look like Mention. They talk like Mention. And we excuse ourselves by saying, we're Heimish, we're okay, we're very Hamish, we're cool, we're chilled. It's because we're family that we could act like that. No, that's not why. You could be polite to your family. You should be polite to your family. Why can't we be the ones who are known as the stand-up people? You're going shopping, grocery shopping, and there are things that you decide you don't want. Don't just put them on any shelf. Remember, if you remember what shelf, so go back and put it back on the shelf you got it from. It's an extra 2 minutes, but people will see that a Jew does stuff like that. We don't just dump stuff. We're considerate of the next person, whether they're a Jew or whether they're a non-Jew. I tell my kids, and this is, it's simple. I'm sure you raised your children like this. When you have children, you will, right? You eat a dish, you eat something from a dish or a cup, you don't leave it on the table. No one else should have to do it for you. Not just because of kibbud av v'em, but it's the right thing to do, to clean up after yourself. If we could be mechanech our kids like that, we'll develop better kids. We just keep hammering into their heads, do the right thing, do the right thing. You should know, after I speak to my kids about it, they all tell me they're hyper aware of doing the right thing the next few days, and then they need another reminder. Almost done with my list. This is a little pet peeve. Doesn't apply to this shul here, but in a shul that I daven at Muncie, it's a very low ceilings, and the air conditioner is in the window. And some hot guy always stands right in front, blocking the rest of the shul. Where's the right thing? I know you're hot, but so is the rest of the shul. It's just awareness that there's the right thing. You leave that space empty and you allow the shul to get cool. It's not a chap. And we use Yiddish words in order to sort of get away. It's not a chap. There's nothing chapadik about it. There's no kunz. It's just wrong. And you make other people suffer because of it. A person does the wrong thing, does the right thing, returns borrowed items. I can't tell you how many people I and others have lent svarim to and other things, and we never see them again. You make it your business. If you borrow a sefer, you return the sefer, and if you're out of town, you put it in the envelope. That's why there's UPS. That's why there's a post office, because there's the right thing is not to hold on to a person's sefer till infinity. Tell you a little story. I was at the airport, and I had an extra piece of luggage, and El Al charges for an extra piece of luggage $100. It may have gone up to 125, but I think it was 100. It was certainly 100 then. So I'm waiting my turn in line, and it's getting late, but nothing to be worried about. And this Hasidic fellow, doesn't have to be a Chassid, we're not a Chassid bash, it could be anyone at all, but he sort of runs ahead of everyone, has a $100 bill. He says, here, take this is for the luggage, and he wants to go away. And El Al doesn't quite work like that. They have to go to the computer and fill out your name and, give you a receipt, right? There's a receipt. You can't just put 100 like you do in a store, like, I'm running it out, here's the money for the milk. It doesn't work like that. And he said, no, it's just 100. And I couldn't help myself. This time I was brave enough. I put my hand on this fellow's shoulders, and I said, that's the wrong thing to do. You see a little line over here? I said, everyone wants to pay for a piece of luggage. Yeah, but I have cash. I said, yes, but you're still number 4 in line. Yeah, but I'm going to miss the flight. We're all on the same flight. So wait in line, it'll be good. And he was a little flustered, but sure enough, out of 500 people, who does God have me sitting next to? Unbelievable. And he said, like, not even like a seat away, like literally next to me. He goes, oh. So now I've got 10 hours of this guy. So he looks at me and he says, I really respect what you did. I really respect that you spoke up. Can I speak with you? I'm having problems with my wife. So I spoke with him for about an hour, and then I had to change seat. It was too much. He wanted to just talk for 10 hours. It was just not going to happen. But what's the first thing I want to say? Of course you're having problems with your wife because you're an inconsiderate fellow, and she probably sees it. I just want to do this. There are other people in the world. Learn the right thing. Do the right thing. If you're a frum yid, you shouldn't be as good as the dignified gentleman who's a Gentile. You should be way better. You should be way better. Disappointing. So now I want to take this in a different direction. When it comes to doing the right thing, often those who are leaders in the Jewish people are able to stand up and create a difference by doing the right thing. That's by definition our leadership, our good leadership. A good leader stands up and does the right thing. And Pinchas was the example. He became a leader by stepping up where no one else did. B'makom she'ein ish hishtadel lios ish. Go out of your way to be counted and to be a person. However, there are two kinds of leaders. And when it comes to doing the right thing, there are two approaches. And I speak to you in these terms because I've had the mazel of speaking to people who went on to leadership roles, and I'm sure there are people right now who are heads of their department who have accomplished a great deal more than I have in life. So what I'm going to tell you are devarim pshutim, simple things. But there are two kinds of leaders, and they're known as the lovers and the fighters. The lovers and the fighters. The fighters are the kanaim. They're the ones who yell and scream, and they're polarizing figures. They have people who love what they stand for and rally behind them, and people who can't stand their guts. And we need such people in the world. Such people are useful. We need hotheads because sometimes we can be parv about issues where parvkeit, if there is such a word, parvness, should not be the rule of the day. But there's another kind of leader, and that's the leader, that's the lover. The lover who attracts more bees with honey, who shows sweetness and a degree of acceptance so that they are looked up to. People confide in them, and they're able to affect change through their love and their sweetness. We all know examples of Rabbanim in our community who fit both criteria. Very often, you'll have a Rav who is not paid by the shul. He is a self-sufficient Rav. He makes his own parnas, and he has the liberty to be strong and hot and fiery. And then others who get their paycheck from the shul, so they don't have that liberty. But we do need both kinds. My confession to you is growing up, I've been a Rav now for 28 years. I was a Rav in Brooklyn, then a Rav in New Jersey, and then I moved to California, and now I have a shul in Muncie. And I started off as a fighter. I liked fighting. I liked it. You stand up, you're on God's side, you could take on the world. And I did. And I felt very self-righteous about it. And then something happened. I'm not going to tell you what, but I do want to tell you that I transitioned to becoming a leader that uses the lover rather than the fighter approach. Maybe it's because my cousin is Shlomo Kalbach, but probably not. Maybe I just understood that people need to be heard and accepted before they can change. And if you yell and you scream, then those who anyways are on your side will say, yeah, you go, you go. The Republicans listen to Fox, yeah, right? No. Everyone listens to, you're not convincing anyone because those who believe in this listen to this. Those who believe in that, they'll listen to MSNBC. Everyone listens to their own thing and nobody's convinced of anything. So you could yell and scream at those who believe in your approach will look at you as a leader. But those who don't, those who need to be changed, they will not change. They will be resentful of you, and eventually they'll be turned off to Judaism. And the lover approach, that understanding and accepting, I found to be way more effective. And it turns out that as the Torah approach, it's much more in line. Its ways are pleasant, and all of its paths are filled with peace. However, fighting and speaking up does have its place. And when there are issues in our community, we need somebody who will get up and be counted. And so I want to share with you the formula for that approach. And the formula is that when somebody is a lover, they're a leader who is a lover, they can promote love, they can accept, they can give a hug, they can give a smile, they can give a listening ear, and they're known to be that kind of a leader, then when the time comes and they have to be a fighter, even that will be listened to. Because people will know that it's coming from a pure place. When all you do is fight, that's not the kind of leadership that's listened to. But if your normal approach is love, and we see this, our Gedolim, Rav Moshe Feinstein, who is a great, great leader and a great lover. He loved Klal Yisrael like nobody's business, but once in a while, when he had to be sharp, when he had to be strong, he was listened to because everyone knew that it was coming from a place of love. And sometimes a Tati has to raise his voice, not often, not all the time, otherwise it's ineffective. But if you show love, 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 then eventually when it's time to be strong, people will accept and they'll listen to you. You know, the Gemara says that every person in this world has leadership in them. Not only do they have leadership, but they have something that they're supposed to present to the world, some innovation, some program that no one else is going to do but you. And if you don't do it, no one's going to do it. It will die with you. If the Chafetz Chaim did not write the Mishnah Berurah, nobody would have written the Mishnah Berurah. Yes, there would have been a Kaf HaChaim, there would have been Aruch HaShulchan, but not a Mishnah Berurah. That was the Chafetz Chaim's place. And maybe, almost for sure, no one would have written a Chafetz Chaim. And if somebody who started Chinuch Atzmai didn't start it at that time, no one else would have done it. We each have a place, the Gemara says, the Gemara in Chulin says, I have left a place for you to become great. You have a destiny. You have a calling. And it doesn't make a difference how old you are, how young you are. I was an art collector. I owned an art gallery. And one of the artists that I collected was called the Jewish Grandma Moses. So when my kids ask me, who's Grandma Moses? You have to know a little bit about art to know. But Grandma Moses was a 76-year-old lady who used to paint naive art in some hick state, I don't know where it was, but like in a real one-horse town. And she would take her painting and put it on the side of the road to see if somebody who happened to be driving down her dusty road would like it and buy it. And there was a fellow from New York who came and he saw it. He's driving by and he walked in and he says, "Lady, I'm going to make you famous." And so he did. He brought her to New York. And today, Grandma Moses and her naive art is the epitome of what a person can do at an older age. She became famous. She lived another 20-something years. But she became the famous Grandma Moses. Google her. Look her up. No such thing as too old or too young. We have our place. I once had a girl, young lady, came to my house and she said, "Rabbi, I don't have any leadership in me. I want to do the right thing and I want to find my calling. But look at me." She was born with a deformity. Half of her face drooped. It was very difficult to grow up like that. And also, she had a very severe limp. She had a severe limp. So she said, "Look, I'm ugly. I can't walk. I'm not a leader. I can't do anything." I said, "I disagree. You are a leader." She said, "What can I do?" I said, "Do you know that there are people in Israel who can't afford shoes? Do you know that if you ask any American, I could ask anyone here in this room, do you own at least one pair of shoes in your closet that you don't wear anymore?" I don't think there's a single person in this room who says, "No, every shoe that I own, I wear constantly." No, it doesn't exist, right? I could probably say, "Do you own at least 5 pairs of shoes?" And we probably have half the room say, "Yeah, at least 5 on." So you know what? There are people who are walking around in Israel and they don't have shoes. So I told her, "Why don't you find those shoes and we'll send them to Israel?" That was my little idea for her. A few weeks later, her father calls me and says, "Rabbi, I have 20 crates of shoes. What am I supposed to do with them?" Well, you're supposed to send them to Israel. You know what she did? She went knocking door to door in Brooklyn saying, "Do you have any extra shoes? I'm collecting shoes for Israel." 20 crates with a limp, knocking on doors. No one knew who she was. What a leader, huh? I had another young lady. She said, "You know what? I like style." She contacted an Italian company, and the company, she said, "What do you do with last year's styles?" "I want to promote tznius, so maybe you have last year's stock, and we can get stylish tzniustic clothing for people who are trying to dress tzniustically." And so she did. And on and on. I have been zoicha. I have been privileged to meet people who not only wanted to do the right thing, but they wanted to make their mark of leadership in the world. I issued a challenge at the last Aguda convention. I spoke there about finding your vision and creating a program. So a few women called me, they said, "You know that there are women that have mental illness, depression, ruins their marriages, have it very difficult. We'd love to start a organization that will create resources for women with mental illness. We need it for men also. It's not just the women." But they said, "We want to create for the women." I said, "Great. Let me be your partner. I'll donate a website. I'll build your website." And so I did. You go to chazkenu.org and .com. It went live this week. And they wrote a letter. They said, "Wow, we found our leadership." I said, "Great, but we can't stop here. Now let's go. Let's get those resources." So we began once a week a phone call where you have free therapy sessions. To recap, if we want to be a light unto the nations, we have to start professing the idea of doing the right thing. And we have to teach our children this, and we have to live with that. You can even just put it on your wall, make a little sign, "I do the right thing." And look for opportunities to do the right thing. I've seen shuls where they barely have a minyan, and yet guys wander out. So the shul suddenly can't continue davening. You ever see that? Guy just wanders out. It's not the right thing. Where are you going? What's so important to leave? Maybe someone has a kaddish at the end. Maybe they came to shul special so they can say Kaddish for their parent that passed away. But now, there you go, you disappear. They don't have a minyan. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. It's the definition of maturity. You know what the definition of maturity is? Doing the right thing at the right time on a consistent basis. That's the definition of maturity. A mature person does the right thing at the right time constantly. That's how you know you've made it. And the more right things we do, the greater leadership we can present to our communities and to the world. And the second point is, when we're ready to do the right thing, we have two ways of presenting it to others. Either as a fighter, hey, where were you? Why weren't you? Or a hand on the shoulder and say, come on, you're bigger than this. You're better than this. And we invest in our relationships with people so that when we do have to wag our finger a little bit, we're not coming just as somebody who's yelling and screaming and is a kanoi for the sake of kanaos. Just yelling and screaming because we're self-righteous. But rather we genuinely care. And sometimes caring means we have to correct, but often caring means we have to support. And that's why Pinchas, when he got the bracha from Hashem, what bracha was it? It was, he nice and loy as brisi shalom. Because Hashem was saying, Pinchas, he's not a kanoi, he's not a fighter. That's not who Pinchas is. He's actually a shalom kind of person. And he is so much shalom that he gets the bris of shalom. So what he did was out of character. But he did it because it needed to be done. And his moment of fighting was justified because he lived a lifetime of shalom. Says Hashem, there's nobody who I want to be able to say birchas koyanim more than Pinchas, because he really is a shalom person. So I give us all a bracha. We should try to do the right thing. Let us represent Hashem to the world. I know it's not a profound idea. I wasn't looking for profundity today. I'm looking for people to watch this and say, you know what? There is a right thing. That's Judaism. Let's take the word mitzvah and put it aside. Let's put in the word midos and put that aside. Let's just say it in English. Do the right thing. Derech eretz kadma l'Torah. Tiferes loy min ha'adam. Be someone who represents v'chazakta v'ha'yisa le'ish. And if we do that, believe it or not, that just may be the trigger to bring the geula. Thank you.